Hey everybody, it's Stacy and Brooke back again to talk about tips for using the ORS and SRS in a virtual therapy setting. Last time we focused on the outcomes rating scale, and this time we're going to focus on the session rating scale. So we're just going to dive right in, and Brooke, I'm going to let you take it away.
Okay, so we're in the same session that we were already in, and that's where we're going to jump in at. Okay, so Stacy, we're getting close to the end of time here. This is when we usually do our regular checkout. So again, we're going to do this with you giving me numbers where, again, 10 is as good as it could have been and 0 is really missing the boat. And we're going to go through each scale, okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so the first one is relationship between you and I. So did you feel heard, understood, and respected today in session?
Yeah, I was a little bit worried about how being online would impact how we interact with each other, but it actually really surprised me by feeling like, okay. So I think if I had to rate that one, I'd rate it a 10.
10? Okay. All right. Well, that's good. And I think with anything like this, it's expected that it's different. It might feel a little awkward and clunky, but I felt like we were pretty connected and in tune. So, if it ever isn't feeling that way, of course, you can just let me know.
Okay.
Okay, next layer, or the next scale, sorry, is goals and topics. So did we talk about what was relevant to you? Did we cover what we needed to today?
Yeah, I'm going to give that one an 8.
Okay.
Because so I wanted to talk about all of the stuff that's going on, but then I felt like I spent so much time talking about it that I didn't talk about like my other important things that we usually talk about. And so I think that maybe I need to figure out how to balance talking about what's going on right now with like the other stuff that we were working on.
Yeah, and I think that makes sense, right? There's so much chaos and craziness right now. We don't want to get too sucked into always just focusing on what's happening right now. So what I'll do is I'll make a note of that, and we can kind of check in at the beginning of next session and figure out how much time we want to spend on kind of present stuff versus the stuff we've already been working on, and we'll see if that shifts things.
All right, great. I think that'd be helpful.
That sounds okay? Okay. And then approach or method is the next scale. So did what we did work for you today?
Yeah, I was really, I had been worried that like, oh my gosh, we can't see each other anymore and how's therapy going to work? But I feel a lot better knowing that we can do it this way, and things felt like they translated pretty well for me. So
Number?
I'm going to give it a 10.
All right. Okay, and then taking everything into account, overall score for today's session.
I actually think it was a 10.
Okay, cool. So we'll make sure to just focus on that one little piece so things don't get lost in our work together. And I will see you next time.
Great. So last time you gave a couple tips about the ORS, and so I'm wondering if you have thinking about fit in general in an online sphere, or specifically the SRS, if there were a couple of things you wanted to share with clinicians.
For sure. I think a big thing as we're transitioning from in-person to virtual is to just take the time to slow down a little bit the measures and really go through each one. As I said with the ORS, if you just use the word that is given, you might not get a more descriptive answer. And so really just breaking things down for them and giving some extra time for the discussion of any little potential hiccups that may have taken place. Certainly at the beginning of this process, if there's technical issues or they couldn't hear you or they didn't feel like you were with them, or maybe there's a lag in communication, really taking a little bit of extra time than you normally would to unpack those things at the beginning to help kind of soothe any anxieties, and also letting letting them know that, like, because it is a new process, that it can be bumpy, and to just give it a little bit of time. And then you can be always reassessing session to session. And my experience is that people typically respond very, very well to this.
So it's really thinking about how do you translate that culture of feedback to the online platform, and helping people have realistic expectations and sort of giving permission in a meaningful way to talk about things that aren't working in general, but also things unique to the virtual sphere that might bump up.
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. And if we're lucky, we'll connect with you again about more tips for doing online administration.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for having me. I hope it helped. These are just a few of the things that have worked for me, and I'm happy to share them.